Hello and welcome to another episode of The Only Playbook, episode 26. We're recapping all of Week 13's action. I am Sweetcar, got Shishot and Shovit. What's going on, guys? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. So, guys, I don't know if I told you this, but this was the best football week I've ever had in my life because all my fantasy teams won, the Pittsburgh Steelers won, and all of my bets hit.
What?
Hit the trifecta. Yeah.
Dude.
Nice.
And your survivor pick hit.
And my survivor pick hit. Quadruple.
You know what
effect.
that means? That means all that juju you just used up this week.
Oh, no.
Premature juju.
And me and Shovit are heading to Minnesota in like 3 days to watch Vikings versus Steelers. So hopefully you ran out of your juju there, buddy.
I hope not.
Yeah, there is no juju on that field. You know that.
There's no juju on that field, but there's juju in this heart, and we're going to win this game.
Damn.
That's going to be so exciting. I'm so sad I'm not going to be able to join you guys on this trip. For the first time, our two helmets there in the front actually
makes
sense to match up against each other. And we should have a preview episode come out before that game starts. I don't know. We'll dive into that later. But again, this episode is all about recapping what happened this past weekend. A lot to talk about. First things first, if you guys enjoy this content that we have put out to you for 13 weeks now, certainly give us a review, like our page, subscribe, tell your friends. We're everywhere: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. At The Only Playbook. Twitter is at Only Playbook. And then all podcasting platforms, Apple, YouTube, Google, Spotify, and Anchor FM. So appreciate all the love and support thus far. Keep it coming and certainly appreciate that. So,
you know what's funny? Remember how hard it was to say all that like the first 2 weeks?
Oh, my God.
You know what this means? This means you can learn anything you want as long as you do it multiple times. It's all about
practice
repetition.
makes perfect.
Just repetition makes perfect.
Allen Iverson was wrong.
Allen Iverson is so wrong, dude. Did you not hear Bill Belichick's post-game interview?
No.
He was like, "Yeah, we practiced." They were like, how do you practice for a game like this with the conditions like this?" He's like, "We practice in the cold. We practice in the hot. We practice in the wet. We practice in the dry. We practice with players out. We practice with backups. We practice." Like he said that like for a minute. And then
awesome.
I commented on that Instagram post. I was like, Allen Iverson is punching the air right now.
Allen Iverson would never practice? Dude, that's crazy. Talk about polar opposites there. But that's so factual. I remember forgetting all of the podcasting applications that we were on at the beginning of the year and just like stumbling through them. But now it's just like it's like Drake when he's busting out a freestyle. It's like all off the cuff. Off the cuff. But again, appreciate all the support. Let's jump into it. We have so many things to unravel. Shishot, I don't think I've seen this long of injuries so far this year, so give us the rundown.
Yeah, we're at that point where things need to happen, right? Like playoffs start in like 2 weeks. And all of us we have playoff implications here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to talk about. Number one, though, we've been giving fans so much cred and like loving them and everything. But you know what? Screw you guys. All right, whoever's listening out there, I watched a couple of people that last podcast, I enforced Darrell Henderson's injury was not a quad contusion. I literally said that. I was like, ESPN has been saying it's a contusion, but he hasn't been practicing. That looks like a quad strain. He's not going to play. And one of my two close friends that have been saying to listen to the podcast, they both started Darrell Henderson. Congratulations.
Wow. Ayush, you're fake news. Who's the other
right?
guy?
Other guy was the guy I was playing against, and I picked up Sony Michel, played it against him.
Wow.
And I won by 21 points. Sony Michel gave me 20 points.
Wow. Not only did Shishot give you the recipe to beat him, but he went and then used the recipe he gave you because of your ineptitude and inability to listen to our podcast, take our advice, and he just beat you. I mean, if that's not like literally rubbing,
it's just upsetting. You know, you work so hard to give the people what they want, and then the people
give
don't
the
even
people
want
what they want.
All right. Well, anyways, that's enough tooting my own horn for a couple of seconds there. But yeah, Darrell Henderson. He's still hobbled, and it's not a quad contusion. So Sony Michel could very well be used this week. The problem is he's Monday night, so you have to wait till the very last minute to make a decision. If you have a better option, I would play the better option because it's too risky of a call. But if you're desperate and you need 20 points and you have people like Alex Collins who's not going to give you 20 points, then you might want to just risk it because it's already the last game of the season.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you have to lose, right? Next up, Joe Burrow. He plans to play through his pinky injury. We were watching this when it happened. That pinky injury is just for stability. So like when you're holding a football, all it does is just hold the football in place, right? It's just balance.
Yep.
It's just about balance. So It's not totally necessary, and when you're wearing a glove, it gives it reinforcement and it helps it balance. The only problem is when you're wearing the glove, now your whole hand is a different hand. So I don't know if that helps him or hurts him more, because I've never seen Joe Burrow use a glove before, so keep that in mind. T. Higgins is clearly not giving a shit about what's happening to his hands. He's getting his 20-plus points. So anyways, he should be fine with that. Big Ben, full practice. He's got that pec shoulder issue, and he's old, so he needs a little bit more time, and looks like he's going to be playing on Thursday. Jalen Hurts, looks like Nick Sirianni has mentioned as of yesterday that it's still Jalen Hurts' job. He's going to retain the job. Congrats, Minshew. You beat the Jets.
Did you see the video of him and his dad?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was pretty sick. It was wholesome as shit.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell if he was faking it, but it just seems like they actually have that type of relationship.
Remember that Kirk Cousins and Mike Zimmer thing?
Yeah.
It was pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like when you know you suck.
Yeah.
And there's we're probably gonna lose.
Yeah.
But then give it a shot and we win.
Yeah.
That's what that emotion is like. Chase Claypool was a full practice with his toe, so he should be good to go. But Tovid Rogers, he actually said on the podcast, whose podcast is it again?
Pat McAfee.
He said his toe is healing well. He wishes,
Pat McAfee.
he said his toe is healing well, but he does wish there was another week, so it's not. 100%.
So clearly, it's bothering him, or he's making it a bigger storyline than he needs to, so that he can be like, I persevere despite my COVID.
That's I can see right through him now.
Oh, I know.
I can see
it
right
seems
through
so.
this guy. I love Rodgers, for many reasons, mainly because I respect him, because we have to play him more than anybody else has to play him, and I've seen what he can do. And I respected him his whole time, but now he's turning into a Kim Kardashian of the NFL.
Just kind of diva.
Like, dude, just fucking suck it up. Like, come on. But anyways, whatever. Next up, return of Julio Jones. He's off the IR. There is nobody to feed there, but I anticipate him being useful for about 2 quarters.
Until he gets injured again.
Till he gets injured, or they're up by a certain amount, they don't use him, or he's going to be on a snap count. This is not somebody you want to play at week 14 if you have playoff implications. You want to go with more of a hot hand, like Russell Gage. He's all they have.
Yeah.
He's all they have. In the last 2 weeks, he's proven enough that he could probably get you more points than Julio Jones. I'm like 85%.
Or at least play enough snaps to warrant getting you points.
Yes, exactly. Okay, and then we're halfway done with this list. I'm trying to run through as much as possible. Matt Nagy reiterated today that it's a pain tolerance issue for Justin Fields. He's not going to get. It's not like something could go wrong. It's a rib problem, so it's all about pain tolerance. So we'll see if he can tolerate the pain later into the week. He'll play. If not, he will not play. I'm sure they want to force him to play because Andy Dalton is looking bad. Elijah Mitchell, he showed up on the list yesterday morning with a concussion. Trenton Cannon, Jeff Wilson Jr. also have injury designations. The 49ers worked out 3 different backs this morning: Jeremy Cox, Brian Hill, and Dexter Williams. They only have 1 healthy back on the roster, and that's JaMychal Hasty, who is only a 3rd down back. So, that again, this is like, I feel like we just need to fire the 49ers training staff at this point.
Yeah.
Like, this is not normal. Like, you can't get all their running backs have been hurt at some point, like drastically.
Yeah. Them and the Giants training staff should both be fired immediately.
Maybe it's the extreme of the coasts. Maybe something about like the weather. I don't know.
Be.
But anyways, they need to figure something out, because now we're like, this is like too much stress this late into the season for us to worry about. I have no idea who's going to start. We're going to have to wait till later in the week to
Hopefully
find out.
Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah, hopefully. Adam Thielen and Dara Saw, our left tackle, Vikings left tackle, did not practice. Dalvin Cook showed up, but he was like walking around with a helmet most of the time during practice. He wasn't really doing much. He was limited. He did his own workout here and there. Good thing is Thielen will not need surgery. It was a high ankle sprain. High ankle sprains are the worst, mainly because it can. So regular ankle sprains, right? You just roll the ankle, done, right? Done. Nothing stretches higher up. High ankle sprain, you stretch it up to the point. There's 2 bones on your tibia and your fibula, right? So those 2 bones have this area in between the space between them called syndesmosis, and it's soft tissue that holds the 2 bones together, and it helps like articulate, right? High ankle sprains, you can tear some of that, rip some of that, you can damage a lot of that, and that's why it's so hard to recover from, because it's not just one joint issue, it's like a whole leg issue. Does it swell
up as well?
It does. Yeah. It does. And it's like you're hurting from the core out, right? It's basically like a bone issue at that point, because it's something that connects the 2 bones together. So anyways, it's a tough injury. He's not going to be playing this Thursday. He just won't. There's just no way. Damian Harris pulled his hamstring while we were watching that game.
Yeah, I saw that on that run to the right.
Yeah, he left and he came back and he broke another one free, but his hamstring was hurting him, so he couldn't make it. He couldn't go all the way.
What's that old video game where you pull a hamstring and you like start limping?
Yeah.
Is that NFL Fever?
Yeah.
Or is that Blitz?
No, that's the one with Mike Allstott.
Oh, NFL Extreme.
NFL Extreme.
Where you pull a hammy and you start
and
limping.
Still running and you score. Yeah. And then Deebo Samuel, the coach today, Mike Shanahan or Kyle Shanahan, he said, "I'm hoping to have him back this week, but still too early to tell." So I would prepare to play without him at this point and just be happy he plays if he does play. But don't anticipate putting him in the roster and not having anybody ready. Darren Waller is optimistic about potential return this week versus the Chiefs, which is weird because we were expecting that to linger a little bit longer.
Yeah, it looked way worse.
Yeah, it was the IT band injury, so hopefully, I guess he's recovered pretty well from that. Corey Davis on the IR. I don't know why I keep talking about Corey Davis on every injury report. No one's going to start him. Doesn't matter. Just whatever. He's on the IR. Logan Thomas, no ACL tear, but it's still not a good injury.
That was a scary looking injury.
Yeah,
too.
he was like crying on the sidelines.
Yeah.
I was like, he's done for the season. And what's funny is when you tear your ACL, 95% of the time you can tell someone tore his ACL just by touching their knees.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to get an MRI.
Yeah.
But what's funny is the staff, the staff that concluded that he may have torn his ACL, and then the MRI said they did not tear his ACL. So that's really funny. Like, that's such a there's a 95% confidence when you do it's called the Lockman's test.
Yeah.
You like sit the patient down and then you pull on their tibia, and if there's laxity in the joint forwards, you tore your ACL. If there's laxity backwards, you tore your PCL. Like, they should have been able to do that.
Yeah, that's interesting because I was looking at some of the articles on ESPN and it was saying that he tore his ACL and PCL.
That's fucking crazy.
Sounds like we need some better hierarchy in terms of people getting these types of jobs that they may not be qualified for.
Yeah.
I.e. you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
This is a live resume here. All of the teams that are listening, like, clearly he knows more than you. So
come on, give me the job. No, but for real. Yeah, Logan Thomas will not be playing, so it's like safe to drop him at this point in the season.
Yeah.
Tyrod Taylor tore ligaments on his left wrist. Again, that was just like a desperation start, for bye weeks and stuff, and now there's no more bye weeks after next week. So Tyrod is dead to the fantasy world moving forward.
Maybe football as a whole. I mean, after this year, like, Texans are probably going to rebuild, try to draft somebody else. He's just going to probably jump from team to team.
Right. I guess he'd be a good backup.
He's a journeyman backup, right? You could see him being like 35 and being a backup in the league.
Yeah, but starting, no.
Nah.
Maybe he can back up Kirk Cousins in Saints.
Yeah.
Maybe he can back up Kirk Cousins in the Saints next year. But Tyrod, okay, anyways, we're done with Tyrod. Last but not least, Richard Sherman will be activated from the IR soon. And the only reason I'm mentioning this, a defensive thing, is because they're moving him to safety.
Oh, wow.
So Richard Sherman will be, according to Bruce Arians, when he's activated from the IR, which should be soon, he's going to start learning the safety position. So that's pretty interesting to me how that's going to play out because he's clearly not good enough to move that quickly.
He doesn't have the speed as a corner. No. So it's a natural move, but for some guy who's been in the league so long and he's played for so long, that'll be interesting.
Yeah. But that's all we got for injuries today.
Yeah. Slew of injuries. Again, it's Tuesday. There's a game on Thursday. Obviously, I think it's not starting this week, but maybe next week or the following week. We'll start having games on Saturdays and shit too. So injuries will become a big factor. Keep up to date with our injuries at Only Playbook on Twitter. We'll update you as the week progresses. But let's jump into recapping the games. First game on the board, we're traveling to Nolens where the Saints were hosting the Cowboys on Thursday night. Cowboys came in here 6-point favorites on the road. Over-under was sitting at 46, and the Cowboys actually win an ugly game, 27-17 final. Cowboys are now 8-4, sitting atop the NFC East. Saints now dropped to 5-7, and once hopeful playoff team is now, 9th or 10th in the NFC. So it's very, very tough to see the Saints bouncing back from this. Taysom Hill, 4 interceptions. Just really, really tough game from him. He was hurt, right? He also got hurt. So obviously I've ragged on Taysom Hill all season with how much money they pay him, how little they use him. He finally gets to actually start a football game, and you see the inabilities he has. I mean, he's not a true quarterback. He's not a drop back quarterback. And I mean, 4 interceptions, completion percentage below 50%. It's not going to get the job done. I don't think the Cowboys looked overly impressive, to be honest with you. It was just really opportunistic with the Saints offense really, really not playing well. What did you guys see here?
Yeah, in terms of Taysom Hill, that guy just doesn't look like a quarterback as far as arms go, but then he does run the ball often. There's a lot of like bootleg actions. Like it's almost like they're running a wild card, like no running back, and he just gets the ball and QB sneaks it and to get a couple yards here and there. But when he makes his throws, you can see that his throws are a little bit, they don't have that zip on it, and it's most of the time it's like underthrown. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't think he's a great quarterback to guess to win games. But fantasy wise, he got like 22 points.
He runs the ball.
He runs the ball often, finds ways to get to the end zone. So I was impressed in terms of that. So I wouldn't mind picking him up and starting him for the remaining of the season. And then on Dallas' side, Ezekiel, man, where is that guy? Just Tony Pollard coming in and gets 71 yards on 7 carries and 1 touchdown. Just not liking how they use Ezekiel. Jerry Jones came out and said that moving forward, Zeke is going to be getting a lot of carries, but it's Jerry Jones. You don't coach the team.
Yeah, he doesn't know shit.
He doesn't know shit. I don't know why he's coming out and saying that. But it's just a terrible, I guess, outing for Zeke this year.
Yeah, Zeke does not look like a starting running back at this point in the season. He does not. He's got a knee injury, but he's still out there. He's still running.
Yeah.
Like if you're out there running while you're complaining about your injury, you're only hurting the team. You're not helping the team, right? Like I get football is a macho sport. You want to tough it out, but at what cost? You have Tony Pollard, who's probably top 5 running backs, period, right now. The way he's playing is returning kicks for touchdowns. He's catching balls for touchdowns. He's turning like 10-yard tosses into touchdowns. Like this guy is killing it. He's a really, really talented running back. And Dallas Cowboys would be really, really dumb to not get the ball in their best player's hand, who is actually Tony Pollard. It's not CeeDee Lamb. It's not anybody else. Just get the ball to Tony Pollard with this crazy good offensive lineman in front of you. Mm-hmm. You will do damage. And then you use Zeke as just like, just pound and grind. Like that's literally what he's been doing, and that's why they're succeeding still. They're not letting Zeke just take all the carries like they were doing during 4 of their losses. If you look closer to those 4 losses, it was very Zeke heavy games. So yeah, Dallas is doing fine. I mean, this is what we expected from them, right? Like we expect their defense is very suspect, but when they're playing against a team with no starting quarterback, you can kind of get away with doing stuff like this. The Saints have now lost 5 straight games in a season for the first time in the Sean Payton era since 2006. So this is not your normal, typical Saints team. Their defense is still pretty good, but your defense can only hang on for so long when you're forced to be on the field so often because Taysom Hill is completing less than 50% of your passes. You can't sustain a team like the Dallas Cowboys offense for that long, and this just played out the way it was. Taysom Hill, to his credit, he did good for 3 quarters. Didn't really throw many picks, and then 4th quarter came up. Dallas kind of figured out how to stop him, and they did that. They let him run all over the place. They played the bend don't break defense, and it worked perfectly because anytime they forced a 3rd down for Taysom Hill, he tried to make plays and throw picks, or try to make plays, and it ended up being picks. So the Cowboys played this game perfectly, and I don't anticipate New Orleans going any further, so they're probably just going to play around with this Taysom Hill experiment for the rest of the season and then look for a stable quarterback for next year.
Yeah, I mean, again, when you're turning the ball over 4 times, throwing 4 interceptions, you're not going to win. On paper, outside of the turnovers, the Saints won like the matchup, right? I mean, 3rd down efficiency, Cowboys were 2 of 13 on 3rd down. Saints were 5 of 14, right? Total yards, Saints had more. Per yards per play, Saints had more. Passing yards, Saints had more. Rushing yards, Saints had more, right? And time of possession, the Saints actually held the ball longer. So the whole, all that to say, the Saints only ended up losing by 4 despite your quarterback, who's not a true quarterback, throwing 4 interceptions. So you have to believe that had they had somebody who is more, capable and not turning the ball over as often and actually knows how to play the quarterback position, they would have put themselves in a pretty good situation to win because the Cowboys didn't impress me this game whatsoever. But nonetheless, the Cowboys come away victorious. They're now 8-4. They're going to have a big test. They got to travel to Washington and take on the football team who are red hot right now. So that's going to be a big divisional matchup for them next week. The Saints get a bounce back opportunity at the Jets next week. But again, at 5-7, they're not out of the playoffs, but even if they're the team that's sliding into the 7th seed, I don't think the Saints are scaring anybody, at least with Taysom Hill at quarterback. So we'll see kind of how the rest of the season unfolds for them. That takes us to Atlanta, where the Falcons were hosting the Bucs this week in a divisional game. Bucs came in as 11-point favorites and kicked a field goal at the very end to actually cover that. 30-17 final. They win under 50.5 hits. Bucs are now 9-3. Falcons dropped to 5-7. What'd you guys like about this particular Bucs game? I think it just... the whole situation with the Bucs is every week it seems like they're finding different ways or different people to beat you, and that's been their MO. Last week we saw a heavy dosage of Leonard Fournette. This week I think the story was a shit ton of balls to Godwin, and then Gronk with very, very big, timely touchdown catches. And not, just like red zone 1-yarders. I mean, he's getting the ball in the middle of the field and running it for 20 yards. So it looked really, really good. I mean, their offense flowed well, and I know the Falcons' defense isn't very good, but what did you like from this game?
Yeah, so Tom Brady with 51 passing attempts. The guy was just slinging the ball everywhere, just trying to just pass it. And, the last couple of games we saw Leonard Fournette do Leonard Fournette things. And, he had a pretty efficient game as far as rushing and receiving as combined, but not that full-on rushing game that we've seen from Leonard Fournette. But Chris Godwin, man, that guy had 15 receptions on 17 targets. So they were just airing the ball out multiple times, and I thought that the Falcons did a good job of keeping it close up until the second half, because the first half ended with a pick six from like the 5-yard line, the Falcons 5-yard line. So that I thought that they were keeping it competitive, but then after the second half started, Bucs were in total control, and it was just all Tampa Bay, all Tom Brady and Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I think you meant to say the Bucs 5-yard line, right? Because it was a pick six.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so that's the thing with the Buccaneers. They're a Super Bowl team, and they're playing like one. They're finding ways to win. They're keeping the defenses confused. Like, I'm sure the Falcons prepared heavily to stop Leonard Fournette, and the Buccaneers were like, wow, you just wasted all that time because we're going to give Godwin 17 targets. So this is what they're – and then Antonio Brown will be back here shortly in like 2-3 weeks. They don't even need him. It's a luxury at this point, and the defense is coming together a little bit. And then they don't have the worst schedule ahead. It's just – all signs point towards Buccaneers cruising through the playoffs, possibly playing Tom Brady for a Belichick and Tom Brady Super Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, that would be as storybook a matchup to end the season as one could imagine. I mean, the Bucs, like you mentioned, Tom Brady just a cool 38 completions, 368, 4 touchdowns, had 1 interception, but who cares? You mentioned the Godwin, 15 for 143. I mean, I think that's the most catches he's ever had in a game.
That's the most he's ever had for
sure. Mike Evans, 7 for 99. Gronk had 458 with 2 touchdowns. Fournette, 7 for 48, also caught a touchdown. And then Brate caught the one other touchdown from Brady. But again, just spreads the ball, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 different receivers caught a pass. So Brady just doing Brady things. And fantasy relevance on the other end. I mean, Matt Ryan, no touchdown passes. Patterson still had a good game, 78 yards on the ground. He did also have 18 yards through the air. We saw the Mike Davis 1 touchdown run, but only had 4 carries. But I think the story in the receiving core is Russell Gage. 12 targets, 11 for 130. Those are the type of numbers that we were expecting from like a Calvin Ridley, from like a Kyle Pitts. But what sucks about Kyle Pitts is when he does make plays, you can see how naturally gifted and talented he is. He's like a freak athlete, but I still don't understand why he's only getting 7 targets, only 4 for 48. I mean, those are underwhelming numbers for one of 2. I mean, at this point, we're just considering Russell Gage, a weapon for them just out of sheer volume, but it's really him, Pitts and Patterson, right? So I don't understand why Pitts still isn't like the guy that's just consistently putting up good numbers for this team. Hopefully in the future that changes, but he definitely has the raw talent and skill set. The Bucs, you mentioned their schedule. They do have a tough one next week. They're going to take on the Bills. It is at home, so that'll be a big test for their team. The Falcons will travel to take on the Carolina Panthers, but again, Falcons are another team, 5-7. Technically, they're in the race for the playoffs, but at the end of the day, whether they sneak into the 7th seed or not, I mean, I don't think they're scaring anybody. So it is what it is with that team. Next game on the board, the Cardinals traveled to Chicago to take on the Bears with the return of Kyler Murray, and DeAndre Hopkins, I believe, was also back this game. Yeah, he was back this game. And the Cardinals actually win this game 33-22 final. They cover the 7.5-point spread. Over 44 absolutely cashes. Again, it was another Andy Dalton game as Justin Fields was not able to play, but the story of this game was, Kyler Murray just was efficient, didn't have to do a tremendous amount. They ran the ball a bunch of times, even though it wasn't incredibly efficiently running, but I guess they stuck to that MO, and I mean, it wasn't like any one receiver had too crazy of a game, but this became more about Andy Dalton throwing 4 interceptions and putting this Cardinals in incredibly advantageous positions to score quick touchdowns. But anything else that you guys saw? What did you like, Shishot? What did you see?
Yeah, the Cardinals are just killing it, man. The Cardinals are absolutely killing it. They're the 3rd team in NFL history to win 7 straight road games by more than 10 points within a season.
That's insane.
These are road games we're talking about.
7-0 this year on the road.
By more than 10 points. They're not even just squeaking by.
They're destroying teams
on
the road.
And it's just perfectly managed team with the injuries, with the roster changes. They're just playing perfect football. I can't wait to see what this team's going to do in the playoffs. This is also my Madden team. They're just flawless.
Yeah.
It's perfect. They have perfect positioning players. They have skill players playing linebackers that can keep up with your receivers. It's just the team's perfect. They're playing perfect. Now, Hopkins is still not 100% right now. Kyler Murray is, but Hopkins showed that he can play. He only got 2 or 3 catches last week. Or
2 catches on 2 targets.
Right. I'm sure that'll increase, and all the other guys can definitely keep up the slack until he's fully healthy.
Yeah.
One thing of note before I'm done here, the Bucs, what we just talked about, they make the playoffs with a win. They're winning in. And so are the Cardinals. The Cardinals also, upcoming game, if they win, they're in. So, and then I think for fantasy purposes, that might not look so good for Hopkins owners, because if the Cardinals end up clinching the playoffs next week, then they don't really have to rush Hopkins, right? They're like, they'll just be like, you know what, Hopkins, just keep doing whatever you're doing. Let us know when you're ready, which is good for the Cardinals, but it's not so good for Hopkins owners.
Yeah. I mean, the Cardinals are hitting on all cylinders, offense and defense, and I really like their schemes and their offense, what they're doing. Like, they're moving their running back out. There's a lot of screen passers, and then Rondale Moore gets involved as well. And then you have DeAndre Hopkins that can catch like these slants. So really not any downfalls or just weaknesses for the Cardinals. And if nothing's working, then Kyler Murray can just run the ball and get yards with his feet. So this is it's a very tough team to beat. And Chicago Bears, when you throw 4 interceptions, lose a turnover battle, you're not even putting yourself in a position to potentially win the game. So it was all Cardinals from the start there.
Yeah, one bright spot, I think David Montgomery on the Bears had his best game of the season, 21 carries, 90 yards, got in the end zone. Also caught 8 passes for 51 yards. He was targeted 9 times, led the team in targets, actually. So he is a workhorse. He was, top 5 running back last year in fantasy. So it's encouraging to see these, especially in these latter fantasy weeks. If you have him and you're in the playoffs, or you're fighting for the playoffs, you have to like what you see from him. So the Bears do have a big divisional matchup. They're at Lambeau Field next week against the Packers, and the Cardinals, I just mentioned, play the Rams. So another tough divisional game for them. So 2 big marquee matchups next week on the board already. Traveling to Cincinnati here, where the Bengals hosted the Chargers this week in a game we all expected was going to be high-powered offenses. Bengals came in at 3-point favorites, but man, San Diego, or should I say LA, actually came to play. Chargers take this one 41-22 final. They covered the 3-point dog spread. The over 50.5 was an absolute lock. Chargers are now 7-5, and the Bengals dropped to 7-5. So 2 teams tied at the record. What did you guys like about this game?
Yeah, this game was a good game. It wasn't the Bengals kind of not keeping up, because at one point the score was, I think, 24-23, and it was a mixed extra point that allowed that. It was a 1-point differential. But the Bengals held their way all up until the 4th quarter, and the thing that the both teams were kind of lacking coming into this game was their defense, and the Chargers defense stepped up big. I believe that they actually beat them out in the turnover ratio as well. So that's kind of what I think led the Chargers to win this game, the turnover.
Yeah, turnover battle was big. I mean, Justin Herbert did throw an interception, but Burrow had 2. He was sacked 6 times. We talked about how they were down 3 linemen, so that definitely came into play, ended up hurting his pinky. Like you mentioned, the down 3 linemen, I think that impacted their rushing game as well, right? Only 25 for 96. Mixon's used to seeing a pretty 20-plus carry workload, but because they got down in the 4th quarter, they weren't able to run for much. Mixon was only averaging 2.8 yards a carry. They were forced to throw the ball more, which, again, Burrow sacked 6 times. It did lead to T. Higgins having a pretty nice game, 9 for 138 and a touchdown. But like we mentioned, I think the Chargers' offense was just too much. And whether it was the Chargers' defense stepping up or the Bengals' offense just being down too many linemen, the Chargers' defense were able to take advantage. 2 interceptions, 6 sacks, 2 fumbles recovered, and then the offense did their thing. Herbert had his game. Eckler had his game. Keenan Allen is now hurt on the IR. Right, so
no, it's a COVID thing.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, I don't know why Riyad's freaking out over COVID list. It's
Okay.
a 5-day list.
Okay.
He'll be back.
My bad. That's fake news by me. Okay,
Yeah.
so it was COVID list, but
There's like 15 other players on the Chargers that are currently on that list.
okay.
They haven't revealed all who it is, but they're not worried about it because when there's this many positives, it's likely a false positive.
false positive.
So we'll have to just wait and see. But yeah, Keenan Allen's not hurt.
Okay.
As far as I know.
Okay.
As far as I know.
Okay. Yeah. Mike Williams ended up having a nice game, 5 for 110. Jalen Guyton continues to impress in the limited targets that he gets. 4 targets, 4 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown. And Keenan Allen did have the 2 touchdown passes or catches from Justin Herbert as well. So again, it's the teeter-totter effect of the Chargers, right? One week their offense is explosive. They put up a lot of points. And you're like, man, let's get behind this team. And then the other week their defense just gets gashed for 300 yards rushing, and their offense can't, formulate a single drive.
Yeah.
So
I don't think it's that unpredictable. This Chargers offense you can kind of expect what you're going to get. If they're playing against like a bottom tier defense, Herbert's going to go off.
Yep.
If they're playing against a really good defense, it's going to be a stalled game. That's
Yeah.
that's one thing the Chargers identity is pretty like you can kind of bet on what you're going to see. It's not like some other teams where like the Vikings per se, you play shitty teams and you can't beat them.
Yep.
That's not the case with the Chargers. The Chargers, if there's a bad team in front of them,
they
they'll
usually
probably
take
beat
care
them.
of them.
And then one other thing we have to talk about is this emergence of T. Higgins versus Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase kind of, I think his like first 4 out of his first 15 catches were touchdowns, right? That's not sustainable, right?
Yeah.
Like let's talk about long run. That's not sustainable, and that's kind of coming into fruition now. Things are settling down a little bit. People are kind of covering the top on Chase, and he's kind of struggling. The drops are back.
Yeah.
He dropped a 70-yard touchdown catch.
Yeah,
Right. That caused the interception.
That caused the interception. So like, I think the reliability, the meter has shifted towards T. Higgins. T. Higgins was always the better wide receiver. Just all that, it was fun. It was fun watching Chase and Burrow connection. But at the end of the day, T. Higgins is just a huge wide receiver 1, and they need to utilize him more. Chase is great. Use him on the slants, throw play actions to deep. But at the end of the day, T. Higgins is the better receiver.
Yeah, I mean, T. Higgins is no slouch, absolutely. I mean, he's 6'4", so he's definitely got the size, and you saw that touchdown catch that he had. I mean, he high-pointed that ball.
Straight up mossed
He
him.
literally mossed him. So he's definitely got a tremendous amount of talent. I think they're just in a very fortunate spot. They have 2 guys that can be possible number 1 receivers, so hopefully they start to utilize that, and they don't feel like they need to force the ball to Jamar Chase because T. Higgins can equally produce. And then you also have a nice compliment still in Tyler Boyd, 5 for 85 on 7 targets. So the weapons are there. Uzomah is a nice tight end as well, so the weapons are certainly around him. We talked about the Bengals coming into the season. Their biggest question mark was the offensive line, and they were surprisingly playing well, staying healthy, and then we saw kind of what the ramifications would be when they were down, and that is kind of their weak spot. They don't have a ton of depth there, so with 3 guys down, Burrow paid the price, got hurt, got sacked 6 times, and threw 2 interceptions, so it's not as much. It can't be much more evident than that the offensive line was the reason that they didn't play as well as they should have. So the Bengals, it doesn't get easier for them. They are at home next week, but they got to take on the 49ers who, I mean, God, love to run the ball down your throat. And the Chargers take on the Giants next week. So it could be a pretty good opportunity for the Chargers to beat up on another bad team. So next game on the board, the worst team in the league, the Detroit Lions, were hosting our Minnesota Vikings this week, still searching for their first victory. Would they finally get it? And the answer to that question is yes, they would fucking finally get it at the expense of our Vikings. 29-27 final. The Lions win this one, covering the 7-point dog spread. Over 46.5 comes in. The Lions are now 1-10-1, and the Vikings drop to a lowly 5-7. What do you guys want to talk about with this shit show of a game?
Let's talk about the good. Let's talk about Madison, who it was the backup running back or starting running back because Dalvin Cook got hurt. 22 carries, 90 yards, 1 touchdown. Proves to be a viable start when Dalvin Cook isn't there. So that was great to see. And then also on the other side of the field, Amon-Ra St. Brown led the Lions in targets, receptions, yards, and he got a touchdown. So had one of the best games he's had as a Detroit Lion. So good fantasy numbers there. But yeah, man, the Vikings. Well, I don't know what happened there at the last drive. Just completely blew it.
Yeah, when you play prevent defense on Jared Goff, you're probably gonna blow it.
Right.
Like there was no need to play that defense. I don't understand what the. By the way, it was after a timeout. So like that was their best defensive call right there. That's what they said after calling the timeout.
It just makes no sense.
Yeah, the defense has let us down way too many times. Offense, literally, Kirk Cousins has like 6 game-winning drives and has successfully put the team in the right position to win every single one of those games. Offense, you can't ask any more of this offense. I know it's a Kubiak-led weird-ass offense, but at least they do their job enough to set us up for success. And then we find ways to lose. And number one reason we lose is because of defense. But then you can't really even blame the defense that much because we were without Eric Hendricks for the first time all year. Still no Patrick Peterson. There was a lot of holes here. It was clear-cut trap game. You know, it was bound to happen, and it happened against the Vikings, which sucks. But it's also not shocking. You know, like when things like this happen, my jaws don't drop anymore. It's just the way it is. But yeah, kudos to the Lions, finding the faults in the weak Vikings defense. But all 3 Vikings that were out, all 3 that were Pro Bowlers at one point, they're back this Thursday. So things should look better, but I don't have hopes. I mean, what are you going to do with this Vikings team going into the playoffs? Like, even if you make the playoffs, what are you going to do? Just allow like 6 touchdowns to Tom Brady, you know? So anyways, that's all I got to say for this game. Hopefully, and then Justin Jefferson, can't stop talking about that man. He's taken over the league by storm. Mm-hmm. This offense is running on all cylinders. Whatever the case, we're getting the ball to Justin Jefferson and putting up 27 points. We just can't allow the Lions to score 29 points.
Yeah, I mean, we have too many flaws. I think I think it's time for Mike Zimmer to go. I mean, if you can't stop Jared Goff in a game-winning drive when he needs a touchdown to score, that's pretty damn pathetic. You have 4 seconds left. It's 4th and 2 from the 11-yard line, and you're playing all of your defensive backs 5 yards into the end zone
behind the receiver.
I'm trying to understand why you're giving a 5-yard cushion between the front of the end zone, which is just as much a touchdown as the back of the end zone, and I don't think the Lions could even thought that they were going to get as easy of a touchdown as they were. Right. All Amon-Ra St. Brown did was run into the end zone, stop and turn around, and the guy was too fucking far to stop him. I mean, it's incompetence from a defensive-minded head coach. He needs to go. And here's the thing, right? Vikings offense looks great on paper. The first half against the Detroit Lions, the Vikings put up 6 fucking points. So, you can give me all the box score stats you want. You cannot go into the half down 20-6 against Detroit. How is your offense only putting up 2 field goals in an entire half of football against the Detroit Lions? I mean, that makes no sense. So 4th quarter, 12 points, 3rd quarter, 9 points, and all of a sudden all of our guys look like they did really, really well. But where the fuck was that all the first half? Why did we decide to do nothing, put ourselves behind the 8 ball? And last thing I'll say, here's a really, really interesting stat. There's a guy that I follow. His name is Phil Mackey. They do a Vikings podcast, and he tweeted this out, right? Yesterday, Kirk Cousins climbs to 5th on the NFL's all-time passer rating leaderboard. Kirk is the only quarterback among the top 15 all-time whose teams are below 500. Right now, listen to this list. You have Patrick Mahomes is number 1. He's way above 500, 46-12. Deshaun Watson's number 2. He's 28-25, but he's newer in the league and he plays on the fucking Texans. Aaron Rodgers, 70 games over 500. Russell Wilson, 60 games over 500. Like the 4 or 5 guys below Kirk Cousins. Drew Brees, 60 games over 500. Dak Prescott, 20 games over 500. Tom Brady, obviously. Tony Romo, 30 games over 500. Steve Young, 50 games over 500. Kirk Cousins is the 5th highest passer rating quarterback of all time. And you know what his record is? 56, 58-2.
Yeah, this just tells me football is not a quarterback sport. It's a team sport, right? We're watching it and happen in front of our eyes. Like this, I think that stat that you just mentioned only makes Kirk Cousins look better to me because with shitty teams like this, he's still playing at the level these Hall of Famers are playing at. Like at that level, like what are you gonna do? Blame that guy for putting us in a position to be 9-3 right now, right? Like so that makes no sense to me. Like this is a team sport. We're watching the team suck. We're watching an MVP candidate get robbed because of the team. So that stat means nothing to me. That just shows that how well he's playing and putting the team in the right positions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. I almost wonder if when they watch the Patriots and Bills game and see the Patriots run the ball so much, and your coach, he's probably like, that's what we're trying to do.
He's getting a hard on.
He's probably getting really excited about that. But
I don't know. I have no idea what this stat means, but he's also been in the league an entire 10 years. So if he's just always had bad supporting cast,
yeah, he has.
Just got the worst.
He has. He's been playing for the Redskins, who are not called that anymore. But there's a reason they paid him so much to come play for us. They see the skill. I've seen the skill the whole time. The man is skilled. He's a really good quarterback. He's just slow, and things happen bad around him. Like, we're fans of the Vikings, right? Like, we're not dumb at what we do. Things happen bad around us. There's some intangibles that you can't connect to these people. Some people are just not meant to win Super Bowls, and some things are happening like that for us. Kirk Cousins just happens to be on the same team as fans that never seem to get anything going right for us. It's just a bad series of things, and there's really no finger pointing towards the quarterback. Out of everything I've learned this year, I would be a fool to start pointing the finger at Kirk Cousins out of all the people that have let us down this season.
Yeah, this season definitely not. But I am definitely of the opinion that I think we should get a different quarterback. But
yeah, eventually, yes. But MVP level play, I will take 10 out of 10 over anything else at this point.
That's fair. That's fair.
Maybe get rid of your coach first.
Yeah, that one's got to go. That one's definitely got to go.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do?
I don't know. At this point, Kirk's not getting any older or any younger. He's 33. He's going to be 34 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is who he is, right? He's a good quarterback. He's extremely accurate, but all of the inabilities that he has, I think he depends too much on everything around him to be perfectly executed for him to succeed, right?
Yeah, it's because he doesn't call his own plays.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
100%. But I don't know if he did in Washington or not. I don't know if he ever had.
It was Kyle Shanahan's team. I know he didn't.
So what's the reason? Is he just dumb? Like,
no.
Why would no team trust a guy they paid $35 million a year to not call plays? And here's a great example of this. We were down 2 points on a 2-point conversion from the 2-yard line. In no world do you run a play right up the middle for 2 unless the defense is literally giving you a reason to run it, right? You're going for 2, and you just run a straight handoff to your...
Yeah.
Literally, there's no disguise there. And you're only running that play if that's the best play to run. But what does that happen? You line up that way. If it's not there, your quarterback needs to audible. Because what happened? The defense knew he was doing that, and they literally stuffed him, made him look stupid as fuck, because that was the most drawn up, like... predictable play I've ever seen.
Obviously, we've been talking about how bad these play calls are. I'm not sure that's on Kirk Cousins. He's a system quarterback, which I will admittedly admit. I'm not like biased in any way. I'm saying what I'm seeing. And he's a system quarterback who is led the way they run. It's like playing Madden. It's like having him and someone's playing Madden using him to play. There's certain quarterbacks like Drew Brees, same situation. A lot of quarterbacks, they don't actually have as much control as we think they do because of the trust in the offensive coordinator. That's just how football is run. There's some quarterbacks that get all the audible power in their lives and all that, but this is not the situation for that. So yes, we should get a different quarterback, but like this is you got to be a fool to start pointing fingers at Kirk Cousins at this point in the season. Like we've watched enough games to know that this is like probably the 7th problem on our list of problems right now.
Yep. So next week, Vikings play the Steelers. You guys will be at that game. Lions take on the Broncos. So let's hope the Lions win out so the Vikings don't look fucking stupid. Next game on the board, the Giants take on the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins actually win this game 20-9 final. Dolphins have won 5 straight games now, 6-7, climbing back into the playoff positioning. Giants are now 4-8. Miami covers the 4-point spread under 40.5. Another very, very efficient game for Tua. Nothing flashy. Gets a ton of completions for low yards per completion, but also protects the ball. So, it's getting the job done. They're beating teams they're supposed to beat. All of a sudden, are the Dolphins a team to be reckoned with, or is this just barely fake news?
Absolutely. I would not want to play the Dolphins right now. I apologize to Tua Tagovailoa right now because I did not he's just a quiet, humble guy, and I'm on the train now. The defense is just lights out. This blitzing system that they've obtained from the Ravens is just they're playing amazing. I know some of these teams they're beating are not that great, but there's something to be said about winning this many games in a row in the NFL this late into the season. It's the same hype train as the Washington football team. There's teams that crumble under pressure and lose to the Lions, and then there's teams that beat Tom Brady and the Patriots with quarterbacks like Taylor Heineke and Tua, and just the whole team. You can just sense when the whole team comes together. And for the Dolphins and the Washington football team, everything is just coming together. So I'm on board. I would like to see how far these type of teams go because it's entertaining. It's nice to see things just fall together for certain teams that are not that good.
The Miami Dolphins, in terms of their defense, a fun stat is they lead the league in pass deflections with 75. Nice. Second is Patriots.
75?
75.
That's a lot of pass deflections.
75 pass deflections. Next is the Patriots, I think, with 72.
What are the Steelers, third?
I'm not sure. I didn't check for them, but
because Hayward and TJ Watt out here
Watt,
swatting shit all the time.
That's true as well. I'm not sure. But so they have a pretty good defense, right? And we saw it against the Ravens when they blitzed that many times and stopped Lamar Jackson from doing those things. But they also have a strong offense now with Devontae Parker back. He had 5 receptions, 62 yards, 5 targets, like a good complement for Waddle. And then you have Gesicki as well. So Tua's got options. He's got no reason to kind of be erratic on his throws, and he's getting solid completion percentage. Right, over his QBR wasn't so good, but I mean 30 for 41 for Tua. That's
what do you mean his QBR wasn't so good? He's had
QBR is different than quarterback rating.
Oh.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. QBR
is different from quarterback rating.
Yeah, like the rating that you get on like 158.3 passer rating.
Yeah,
it's different than QBR.
Oh, wow. I was under the impression that it was actually the same.
QBR is a more quantifiable stat because passer rating is just based on box score.
Right.
QBR takes into account like situational.
And the highest QBR is 100.
No, I don't know what the highest QBR is. It might be 100. But yeah.
So his is 65.9. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's good or not. I guess I don't know much about that. But no, the Dolphins are looking pretty good. Tua's efficient and they've got options. So I like the Dolphins' resurgence, I guess, in the past 3-4 weeks. Myles Gaskin is still not really being fantasy viable on a week-to-week basis. Only 15 carries, 44 yards, and had 2 receptions for 5 yards. But outside of that, you gotta love Waddle. You gotta like the resurgence of Devontae Parker.
Waddle's on pace to beat the rookie. I think it's a yard record, or is it the reception record?
I would guess receptions if I had to guess.
It's one of it's
because I don't think he's been getting a ton of yards.
8 catches a game probably will do that. But yeah, he's on pace, and this is without that extra week of football. Mm-hmm. He's on pace to break this on week 16. And then one last thing just about Tua. This is his. He has a 100 or more passer rating in 4 straight games. Only Hall of Famer Dan Marino has a longer single season streak among Miami quarterbacks, so they might have found the quarterback of their future.
I'm still skeptical on Tua personally. I need to see him do more than average 6 yards an attempt. Mm-hmm. You can be very efficient and put up great box score numbers, but you're just dinking and dunking. And once they have to play a high-flying offense, it'd be interesting to see if they can stretch the field. But, I mean, they beat the Giants, they beat the Panthers, and they beat the Jets in their last 3 games. They did beat Baltimore the game before that, so that's probably their most impressive victory, but Tua only had 150 yards passing there. So nice to get some momentum and win some games in the NFL because it is hard to do. But I want to see them actually beat a playoff team or a team that actually has a offensive attack that they are going to need to try to keep up with.
Which will be the Patriots. In 3 weeks.
Yeah, they head into a bye, so they're heading into a bye at 6-7. But yeah, even the Patriots, it's not like the Patriots are a high flying offense. They just run down your throat, right? I want to see how Tua can put the ball downfield when they have to play like the Bucs. Or a team that for sure you're not going to be able to stop enough times. You're going to have to continue to keep up.
Yeah, they're probably not going to beat the Bucs.
Yeah, it's not even about beating. It's about Tua proving to me that he's not more than a check downer, right? So throw the ball downfield against a team that, again, you're going to have to throw the ball downfield to succeed against, and then I'll finally be on the Tua train. But yeah, 4 games in a row, he's put up really good numbers, and they have won. And they're now 6-7. Giants take on the Chargers next week in LA. Giants are 4-8, so they're struggling. Slew of injuries, so I don't really know if they have much hope left. But the Dolphins again get the bye at 6-7. They're right in the wild card thick of things. And you mentioned they're going to have divisional tests against the Bills, against the Patriots. So them in their own division is already going to be tough games for them coming up. So it'll be interesting to see if they can squeak into that 7th seed.
It's actually kind of interesting because they've already played the Bills twice.
Okay.
So the remaining schedule is the Jets, the Saints, the Titans, and then the last game is against the Patriots. But those first 3 teams, the Jets, Saints, and
very
Titans,
beatable.
They're definitely beatable.
And the Patriots could already have a bye that last game, so they benched it. They benched their team, and then they could literally win out and be 10-7. Yeah, very favorable schedule for the Dolphins. The next game on the board, the Jets. The New York Jets are at home against the Philadelphia Eagles this week. Eagles started Gardner Minshew with Jalen Hurts hurt, and Eagles took care of business. 33-18 final on the road, came in at 6.5-point favorites and covered that spread easily. Over 45 hit. Gardner Minshew show. Again, he was a one-and-done starter. They've already announced Jalen Hurts, but nice story for him. They pick up the victory. He plays well. He hugs his dad a bunch, like 3 or 4 times after the game in a video that went viral. What did you guys see from this one?
Yeah, dude, Philadelphia this is one of the legs of my teaser, and I just had to have the Eagles win out, and they won in a big fashion, 15 points, 33-18 against the Jets. Zach Wilson kind of looked good in the first half, and then just kind of disappeared. threw an interception in the second half, and they didn't score any points. So I guess the Eagles defense may have just stepped up, or there's still that question of whether Zach Wilson can really command this offense, like some of the other quarterbacks that we've seen Jets do. But yeah, Eagles, well done. Ran the ball again. 24 carries, 120 yards by Miles Sanders. And Gainwell had a vulturing touchdown as well. 12 for 54.
Was it a vulturing touchdown? Was because Miles Sanders got hurt at one point.
And
he didn't come back.
And Gainwell came in.
And Miles Sanders also fumbled. So if you're fumbling, getting hurt, like, bro, your time in the NFL is over. Like,
did he fumble?
I believe he fumbled.
Okay.
Does it not show he fumbled?
It doesn't show it on the box score, but I don't know. Maybe he fumbled and then they recovered it, but even that usually shows.
All I know is the ball left his hands during active gameplay at some point.
It may have rolled out of bounds. I don't know if that counts as a fumble, maybe. But
but yeah, and then so Gardner Minshew comes in and throws 2 touchdowns to Dallas Goedert, who I was playing against, and I thought that was going to be it for my fantasy week. But luckily, I still end up winning. But 6 receptions, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. And on the other side, Elijah Moore just keeps getting the receptions, continuing to be a viable start. I know that was one of the question marks when Zach Wilson comes in. Will Elijah Moore still be a good start? And I think he looks to be the getting most of the targets. 12 targets last game. Crowder was second with 6. So it's good start there for Elijah Moore as well.
Yeah, found the end zone. Again, I don't know how many weeks that's in a row, or it's how many weeks out of how many weeks, but I feel like Elijah Moore's getting into the end zone pretty often.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do look like they go to him. It's nice that Zach Wilson stepped in and still threw him the ball, but the Jets offense did look like it took a step back with Zach Wilson at the helm. I know the Eagles defense is a little bit better than the last couple of teams they've played, but Jets are now 3-9. They play the Saints next week. Eagles 6-7. That division, all of a sudden, they're third with Washington football team on their surge. So they're still in the playoff race. They get a bye next week. Hopefully Hurts can get healthy, and then they get him back after the bye to see if they can, take that 7th seed. But it'll be interesting for that NFC East and the wild card spot there for the last 2. The next game on the board was the Indianapolis Colts. They traveled to Houston to take on the Texans. It was literally all Colts this game, 31-0, start to finish. Literally one of the first plays of the game, Tyrod Taylor threw one of the shittiest picks I've ever seen. Literally stared down one guy 3 yards on the sidelines. It was his last resort. Still ends up throwing him the ball, and it goes right to the defender. It was a half yard behind him. So just a horrible pass. One of the worst overall performances I think we've seen from Tyrod. He typically tends to be pretty level-headed, even-keeled, gives you a solid performance all around, even though they don't win a bunch. But 31-0. It was literally all Colts. They didn't have to throw a bunch. Jonathan Taylor did his usual 32 for 143 and 2 touchdowns. So, again, he's continued to add to his monster season, and the Colts defense pretty much shut down the Texans. I mean, what else did you guys see?
Yeah, it was all Colts. So they just kind of ran the ball to Jonathan Taylor often, and then they would have these play actions to Michael Pittman Jr., and that was kind of the recipe for the rest of the game. The Texans had no answer whatsoever for the Colts, and Tyrod Taylor goes out, Davis Mills comes in, still nothing. So yeah, the Colts just kind of took control of the game and went home with it.
So the Colts now, anytime they play the Texans, the last 2 matchups at least, they've scored 62 points and they've allowed 3 points.
Damn.
Right, so they're just murdering them. And what's funny is, this is actually a bizarre stat. I don't know if I'll hear a stat close to this for the rest of the day. The Colts shut out the Colts shut out an opponent on the road for the first time since 1992. They have not shut out an opponent ever.
Yeah,
that's since 1992.
That's a long time. 20 plus years.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
In a bad way.
Yeah. I mean, good for them. They finally broke that streak, right?
I just think of all those times that they had Peyton Manning. Their offense was really good, and defense was always not very well.
One of the
defense were hit or miss. Sometimes they were pretty good.
One of the defensive MVPs was on the Colts.
Dwight Freeney, right? No. Or Robert Mathis?
No, Bob Sanders.
Oh, Bob Sanders. That's right.
Interesting stat.
Yeah, so, 31-0 all Colts. They covered the 10-point spread. We talked about it. Wentz played mistake-free football. When he does that, they typically win. Jonathan Taylor got his. It was cool to see them run 2 carries for Michael Pittman. I don't know if they're just trying to get him more involved. He seems obviously to be the number 1 receiver.
He's not even
there.
that fast.
No, he's not. It is weird. He's not the fastest guy, but 2 carries, 33 yards, had a 25-yard run. So good for him. Again, the Texans' offense, really nothing. There was nobody viable fantasy-wise. Nobody had a decent day. Rex Burkhead, 8 carries for 30 yards, led the backfield. Cooks had 38 yards receiving on 3 catches, led the receiving corps. So the Texans now take on the Seahawks next week. The Colts have a bye. So the Colts are 7-6 heading into a bye. They're putting themselves in a pretty solid position to fight for the wild card spots there. Texans obviously out of it. Washington football team, we just talked about them. They are absolutely surging. They were traveling to Vegas to take on the Raiders this week, and they came out victorious in a last-second field goal, 17-15 final. They cover the 2.5-point dog spread, win outright under 49.5 hits. The story of Taylor Heineke continues. They're now 6-6 winners of, 5 in a row? I don't know how many in a row they've won, but they beat the Vegas Raiders in LA, right? Or in Las Vegas. Antonio Gibson, another 23 carries, 88 yards. Not the most efficient day, but at least he's getting workhorse type numbers. He did also catch 5 for 50 or 23 and got in the end zone. We talked about Logan Thomas earlier in the episode, 48 yards and a touchdown, but did get hurt. But I mean, other than that, I mean, it was really just a battle. Ineptitude offenses, really not completely efficient, but down the wire, Taylor Heineke made more plays than Derek Carr.
Yeah. Another injury to kind of talk about in this game, I don't know if you mentioned this, but Kenyon Drake is out for the rest of the season. So, it looks like Jacobs should be getting that, solidifying that RB1 role even further. So, good signs there. But this was also, going back to the game, this was the 4th winning drive by Heineke this year. So, the Washington football team just finding ways to win. The Raiders are such a question mark team that you'll never know what you're going to get with this team in terms of winning and offense is just so erratic.
Yep.
And, the football team just kind of came out and were able to get the job done with Heineke, just doing Heineke things, just out there putting grit and, I guess,
Tenacity.
That tenacity guy threw a pick with 6 minutes left, but his defense really saved him.
Yeah.
So there's some quarterbacks that can get away with playing like and then, throwing picks and stuff later in the game and then still winning because defense steps it up.
Must be nice.
Yeah. Can't relate.
Josh Jacobs, 13 for 52, got a touchdown. Obviously, with Kenyon Drake getting hurt, Josh Jacobs had 9 catches for 38 yards. It's nice to see as a fantasy owner for Josh Jacobs that he's clearly capable of catching the ball. So why did you pay Kenyon Drake millions of dollars? Doesn't make sense still. But yeah, the Raiders are exactly that. They're fake news. They're 6-6. They're still in the playoff race, but every time it seems like they can grab the playoff race by the horns, they put together a shitty performance, right? 15 points by that offense. It seems inexcusable. I mean, they have too many weapons on the offensive side. Renfrow was nice again, 9 for 102 on 10 targets. But yeah, the Washington football team are surging. They have a big game next week against the Cowboys. I mean, shit, if they can win that, they're 1 game out of the division.
Wow. They go 11-6?
Yeah. All of a sudden, if they win 5 in a row, they can go 11-6.
That's so funny. I was listening to a podcast like 5 weeks ago, and they were I think they were 2-6 at that time, right?
I think so.
And Matthew Berry was like, "What if they go 11-6?" And the whole crowd started laughing.
Yeah.
And now this is a very much
be
a
a
reality.
Yeah.
Funny.
Wild.
Yeah, I mean, they take the Cowboys. The Raiders, it doesn't get easier. They're traveling to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs on the road in a big divisional game there. So 6-6 Raiders, yes, they're still fighting for the wild card spot, but we all, I think, consensusly believe that they're fake news. Washington, on the other hand, holy shit, watch out. That game against the Cowboys will be big. I personally think, there's no reason they couldn't upset the Cowboys with everything we've seen from them and everything we've seen from the Cowboys. So stick around. That'll be a great matchup next week. The Jaguars, on the other hand, did not play a good matchup. They traveled to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. Rams came in 7-4. The Jags were 2-9. Jags are now 2-10 because they only scored 7 points. 37-7 final. The Rams win this one easily. Covered their 13-point spread. Under 48 hits. The Rams are now 8-4. Took care of business here. I mean, really not much else, to say. Obviously, on paper, all the Rams guys are going to have big games because they were playing the Jaguars. Stafford's box score looks great. Cooper Kupp got his. Sony Michel, huge game, 24, 121, and a touchdown in the absence of Darrell Henderson, which, again, Shishot had called on this podcast before anybody else. So I don't know what you guys are doing not listening to what we have to say, but the Jaguars, another game, another Trevor Lawrence game that's just like it. He's just been so forgettable. And I don't know if it's the Jaguars, it's because Urban Meyer, it's because, everything, or if it's just the fact that Trevor Lawrence might not be what he was in college. I mean, I don't know. He's, you still have an NFL team around you, right? So yes, you can suck. Yes, you can struggle. But I mean, I don't know, like 16 of 28 for 145. Like, he didn't throw 6 picks. Like, it'd be one thing if he threw 6 picks and you're like, okay, so he tried to force the ball. He had 28 attempts for 145 yards total. So, like, I'm just trying to understand, was he just okay with checking the ball down, knowing that the Rams were still going to score every time? Or was he too scared to take chances and make mistakes, knowing that that was the only shot they'd have to keep themselves in the game? So, at this point, I really question really the mindset of Trevor Lawrence, because it's like, are you just trying to make sure that your stats don't get worse as the season progresses because you know it's a lost cause? But at this point, you're down 37-7. I expect Trevor Lawrence to have interceptions because he should be taking chances.
Right.
They're not going to win without that.
So he's been having a lot of turnovers, right? Like over the last few weeks.
Yep.
And then the Rams lost 3 straight, had a bye week. The Rams are coming in here saying, we're not going to fucking lose to a guy named Trevor Lawrence. So they played lights out. The Rams played perfect defense, which they had not been doing the last couple of weeks. And I think that just limited what Trevor Lawrence could do. But yeah, I'm surprised he doesn't have picks, honestly. Maybe the Jags' philosophy was to not let the Rams take the ball because they know if they turn the ball over the Rams are going to get some points on the other side. So maybe they were just trying not to get the ball in the Rams' hands. I don't know. But as well as Trevor Lawrence played it from a turnover standpoint, you're still not going to win the game if you just play safe against the Rams. Like you don't have something else that could help that out. Like you are all they have, right? And James Robinson's injured. Carlos Hyde actually got more carries than James Robinson this game, so that's something to look out for if you're in the playoffs. James Robinson's probably on a lot of playoff teams' roster. So you're gonna have to make some changes here.
It's almost like they just don't like James Robinson because of the fact that, and this is just like me putting something out there, but speculation. But Urban Meyer drafted Etienne, Etienne, and he got injured, right? So the better James Robinson does, the more it looks bad on him. So maybe he's like, because he's not getting enough carries from how good he is. And even last game, he fumbles the ball. They bench him.
Yeah, that was so messed up.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense. A guy that like pretty much never fumbles, and he makes one fumble and you're like benching him.
Right. It really doesn't make sense.
You're right. It doesn't add up.
Eckler got 2 fumbles this game. Do you think he was benched?
No.
No, Eckler doesn't get benched. No. James Robinson should not get benched.
He's in the same
either.
category.
Yeah, he doesn't get the respect he
James
deserves.
Robinson does not get the respect he deserves at all. And it's clear. Like you said, they actually brought James Robinson back in the 4th quarter to play, and he got more hurt.
Yeah.
Right? Like, at that point, what was the reason for bringing back James Robinson?
They asked him that as well. And he's like, I don't know why.
You know what that tells me? Urban Meyer literally still coaches this team like they're a college football team, right? Yeah. In college, your guy's fighting for their livelihood, right? He fumbles the ball, you can put him in the doghouse, right? If you have a set of running backs like Bill Belichick has in the past, or like the 49ers have, where like you can plug and play anybody and no one's like a big superstar, put them in the doghouse if they fumble. When you have one guy that's clearly better than everybody else, yet you're continuing to randomly give Carlos Hyde a journeyman snaps when he's not efficient, there's nothing that he brings to the table that James Robinson doesn't. Yeah, I'm honestly with you that like they literally clearly don't like him, or Urban Meyer just still has this dumbass like college mentality where you're not playing your best players.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Another fantasy thing to kind of look at, I don't know if you guys will agree with me on this one, but Van Jefferson outsnapped OBJ. Also got more targets than OBJ. He ran more routes than OBJ. From in the last 2 games, he's got 17 targets in the last 2 weeks. So I am in the favor that maybe Van Jefferson would be a good like flex play. Like you mentioned Russell Gage, Van Jefferson over OBJ maybe would be a solid play.
With the way the Rams run their offense, having him being the number 2 receiver just based on how much he's on the field, I think volume wise it definitely warrants him playing it. And it's not just volume; he's also actually producing. I mean, he's producing nicely, especially now that
Woods is not there.
But also Deshaun Jackson's gone.
Right.
The guy that's actually caught a lot of the deep balls has been Van Jefferson, right? So I don't know from a speed perspective how much faster he really is than Kupp or Odell Beckham or who's fastest there, but it seems like the routes that are meant to go deep right now are going to Van Jefferson. So, the Rams love to throw the ball. They love to throw the ball deep. So, as a result, I definitely agree with you with Van Jefferson. On the other end, another week where Laquan Treadwell leads the Jags receiving core, 4 catches, 62 yards. if you know anything about Laquan Treadwell, that's literally all you need to know when you look at the Jaguars box score, that he is their leading receiver. I mean, that offense is in shambles. And so they're 2-10. They travel to Tennessee to take on the Titans next week. It doesn't get any easier for them. The Rams have that big divisional matchup at Arizona next week against the Cardinals. Every big spot for the Rams, I think they've actually been a letdown, all their big matchups. They may have won like their first big matchup. I can't remember if they beat one big team, but it seems like every big matchup that the Rams have been, they've been the losing team, and that just always attributes to like Matthew Stafford looking like he plays for the Detroit Lions again every time he has a tough team to play, and then he fills up the stat sheet against the Jags. 295, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions.
It's like 8-0 against teams that are under 500 and 1-4 against teams.
Exactly. So, again, the Rams need to beat a playoff team or a good team to actually make it seem like they're a legitimate contender, because yes, they're 8-4. It's a nice and pretty record, but they look like a first-round exit in the playoffs right now.
Yeah,
so
they do.
Next game on the board, the Ravens travel to Pittsburgh. Shove-it. What a fucking game. The Steelers at home come away victorious as 4.5-point underdogs. 20-19 final. Squeak away by 1 point. Under 44 hits. The Steelers did a fantastic job of containing Lamar Jackson, which has historically been their MO. That I feel like historically the Steelers have done a really, really good job eliminating him. I feel like Lamar Jackson's in like the 3 or 4 worst game stretch of his career so far as a pro. Just looks incredibly inaccurate. A lot of the interceptions he's throwing, you're kind of like, what are you doing? But credit to the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. They played well. Big Ben made really, really nice throws down the field. Protected the ball, only sacked 1 time with the offensive line woes that we've talked about. What did you guys see in this game?
Yeah, I mean, you got to give credit to TJ Watt, man. That guy's got 16 sacks in the NFL this week after not playing this year. Sorry. This 16 sacks this year.
I got 8 sacks on Madden in one game one time, but 16 sacks?
No, 16 in the week. And that's after missing 2 games. Yeah. So after and so Myles Garrett hasn't missed a game, 14 sacks. Where are you at, Myles? Where are you at? But yeah, no, solid game. 3 sacks this game, not 16. 3 sacks this game. So it was great to see that we weren't committing turnovers, and Ben Roethlisberger comes back and allows them to win the game. We almost lost it. It. And if it wasn't for Mark Andrews dropping that, I think it was 2-point conversion, which was crazy that they went for it in the first place, but he drops it and then we win the game. So it's just one of those things that we needed. Just solid performance by all of the offense. Deontay Johnson had his numbers. Ben Roethlisberger played great. Everyone did well on the offense and just came out with a win. And now we're looking like we could probably get into the playoffs. So it's looking good.
Yeah, 72 hours from now, we will be having a different conversation. But, yeah, the Steelers squeaked in. They were the benefactors of a very aggressive call. We always want aggressive calls nowadays in this day and age, but this is the outcome sometimes, and you just have to deal with it, right? Like, this is what happens. This game was just, it went exactly how the last couple of Ravens-Steelers games have gone. The Steelers are 7-2 following a loss of 20 points or more. And then it just so happens they play the Ravens afterwards in a lot of those situations, which is weird. But Big Ben has been just destroying the Ravens in his career. In his last 8 starts against the Ravens, he's won 7 of them. So at this point, with the young quarterback that the Ravens have, and he does all these dynamic things with their defense, and then you have Big Ben, just big ball of just cuddle monster. And then you have, the Steelers defense. So it somehow, some way, Big Ben ends up being the benefactor of this. Looks like it comes down to being a mental battle with the Ravens and Steelers. And Mike Tomlin and Big Ben always find a way to sneak by.
Yeah. Najee Harris, 21 carries, 71 yards, 5 catches, 36 yards. Deontay Johnson had a huge game, 8 for 105, 2 touchdowns. He's obviously clearing away their favorite target. Slower games for Claypool, for Freiermuth, the other guys. But you're actually the second guy to say Mark Andrews dropped that. And I feel like every replay I watched, I actually don't think that was a drop. I think it was an inaccurate throw. But I don't know. Obviously
he was hurried, so he didn't make that throw.
Yeah, TJ Watt was literally in his face. So it's not even his fault for making a bad throw. But the way the route was run, it was almost like Andrews was like running sideways, and then he was on like a sit, right? Like he ran to the side, and then he like kind of sat, and then Lamar Jackson like threw it sideways on this side of him, which would have been like his left hand, and he had to reach out one-handedly. So timing-wise, it looked like it was off. I don't fault Lamar because T.J. Watt was literally in his face, but I also didn't think that was a drop. But I don't know if they counted that as a drop in the stat sheet. That's rough.
That was a tough one. I feel like as a receiver, you got to catch that though. Like, it's in your hand. You mentioned it's the other hand. It's the left hand, but that is also the hand of preference when the ball is coming from this. You don't want to catch it like this, right? Like you want to catch it like this. And it wasn't his fingers. It was just bang, bang, TJ Watt's in your face. What are you going to do? But, like, if someone's got to take the fall there, it's got to be the receiver, at least from what I saw. But it's tough. That's a tough one.
Yeah, that's tough. But Ravens take on the Browns in Cleveland next week. The Steelers are traveling to Minnesota to take on our Vikings on Thursday night that you guys will both be at. So big game there for our internal in-house fan bases.
I wish that the Vikings won against the Lions because now I feel like you guys are going to just go so – like there's so much more to fight for.
No, we're not. We've had those moments all season long.
No,
Yeah.
we're the definition of a team that literally when we can't, all of a sudden we will, right?
Yeah.
So it's like we're 5-7. We just lost to the shittiest team in the league.
Yeah.
We should, in theory, let's just collapse and actually like build for next year. But no, we'll string across 3 more games, and all of a sudden we'll be in week 16 of this podcast. But the Vikings are back in playoff contention, only to lose in the first round. It's just the same fucking story with Minnesota. So you should be happy that we lost to the Lions. We probably literally are coming in there with zero morale. It's not one of those where we need to bounce back. It's one of those where there's nothing to bounce back from when you lose to a team that hasn't won all
we didn't even
year.
lose against the Lions.
Yeah, exactly. You guys literally beat the Lions. Almost beat us twice, actually.
Yeah, we tied.
We were 30 seconds away from losing the Lions twice this year. In a season they haven't won. So that's all you need to know about the Minnesota Vikings. The 49ers were at Seattle this week in a very winnable game after the Seahawks had looked very, very bad. Russell Wilson did not look the same. The 49ers were cruising. And they come in here and they should cruise, right? That should have been how this game went, but no, absolutely not how this game went. Seattle wins at home 30-23 final. They cover the 3.5-point dog spread. The over 45.5 hits. All of a sudden, the 49ers are now 6-6. The Seahawks are 4-8. They think they're still in the playoff race, but they're really not. So I don't know why they won this one. Kudos to them, though. Russell Wilson, I mean, it's not like he played a great game, but made enough plays down the road or down the stretch to be the difference. Travis Homer had that huge touchdown. So a lot of random things going their way. I will credit the Seattle defense. So they did do the one thing that most teams have struggled this year to do, and that is contain the rushing attack of San Francisco. Elijah Mitchell only had 22 carries for 66 yards. That's 3 yards a carry. The team as a whole only averaged 2.8 yards a carry, a team that literally dominates your throat by running the ball. And Seattle, who all year has been a pretty bad defense. So credit to Seattle's defense for actually containing the run game. I think that allowed Kittle to have as big of a game as he did. Shout out to Kittle. But I don't think I personally did not come in here and expect the Seattle Seahawks to win this game. So I'm very shocked about this outcome.
Yeah, I just remember mentioning on our virtual recording session last week that Russell Wilson was like 16-4 against San Francisco in his career, and I remember saying that is the only thing favoring them. There was literally nothing favoring them besides Russell Wilson, and I guess maybe he kind of got some, maybe he's learned how to play football again. I don't know, but I'm not banking on this. He is my fantasy quarterback that I drafted, so I'm holding on to him, but I don't feel comfortable by any means. This offensive line could just collapse, and why don't they throw to DK Metcalf? Tyler Lockett just caught his first touchdown in like 10 games or something crazy like that. So yeah, there's nothing about this offense that changed anything about how I view the Seahawks. I'm still expecting shitty numbers from everybody across the board, and I'm not banking on this in the playoffs at all.
If anything, I'm just a little bit more disappointed that the 49ers didn't solidify themselves at like 7-5 and been like, hey, they've kind of been a freight train the last couple of weeks. So just a big letdown spot for them.
Yeah, I mean, the Seattle has beat 49ers, and this is the 4th consecutive win against the 49ers. And they kind of just, I think that the fake punt helped them, right? They get 7 points that way. Homer just gets a direct snap and then 70-yard touchdown, which can't imagine why more teams don't do that, because the only person that's like stopping you is the punt returner once you get past the first down line. And then there was a safety too. So Seattle had a safety, and so the 8 points, divisional game. So I think that kind of made things a little bit close. I didn't have the Seahawks winning, but they just found a way to get things done. Russell Wilson efficient, 30 for 37. Metcalf almost had a touchdown. was down at the 1 yard line, and then here comes Adrian Peterson.
Shout out to AP, 11 carries, 16 yards, a cool 1.5 yards per carry, but did get in the end zone. So if you started him in fantasy, he got you 7.6 points.
Yeah, so
no comment.
Yeah, that's
Right.
just brutal. I mean, yeah, Kittle on the other side, 9 for 181, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he was absolutely unstoppable. It's weird, though. They knew they had to throw. They had no Deebo Samuel, and it was literally all George Kittle.
that's what we said last week, right? No Deebo Samuel, so probably Kittle should get his more targets, and he got 12 targets, 9 receptions. But I think that on the Seahawks side, Lockett should be a lock to be startable.
As long as Russell
When
Wilson's
Russell Wilson
starting,
is there, Tyler Lockett is a must start.
Yeah.
Right.
Finger or no finger, because he still throws or attempts to throw the ball to Tyler Lockett regardless of what his finger looks like. He's like the one constant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. It's not DK Metcalf, but
No, it's not. DK.
There's got to be something we're missing here.
I don't know.
There's got to be something.
Yeah, it's. I feel like you probably felt the same way all last year having DK Metcalf. Why the fuck does he not get the ball
because
more?
it was 5 receptions for 90 to 100 yards and a touchdown. It was guaranteed, right? And like it's the same amount of targets, same amount of receptions, but the yards are lower and there's no touchdowns.
Yeah.
Like they're not sure what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The 49ers are now 6-6, still alive, obviously. They're at Cincinnati next week, so big matchup for two teams that are fighting for a playoff spot. The Seahawks are 4-8. I mean, I think they'd really have to backdoor their way, win five in a row, and hope for a lot of things to play out differently to squeak into the final playoff spot. And maybe by that time, Russell Wilson's finger's healed, and they're the 7th seed that no one wants to face. But that's really, really just being very, very optimistic. But they're 4-8. They get another winnable game next week, though. They travel to Houston to take on the Texans. That takes us into Sunday Night Football at Arrowhead Stadium. Shout out to my buddy Turner. He was at this game. The Chiefs hosted the Broncos here at Arrowhead, came in at 9.5-point favorites. Over-under was 47. Final score 22-9. Chiefs win this one. Ugly game. I mean, do cover the spread. Under hits, but still not the offensive outburst that in the past we've expected from the Chiefs. Denver did a nice job on defense. But the Chiefs nonetheless still win this. They're 8-4 now. I don't know. What did you guys actually see in this game that stuck out? I mean, for me personally, Javonte Williams got the bulk share of carries with Melvin Gordon being out. I've really, really liked his talent all year. He ran the ball nicely, was very, very efficient, caught the ball nicely as well. So I think he was the biggest bright spot for the Broncos. But what did you guys see?
Yeah. So, I mean, another thing we mentioned on the previews was how Patrick Mahomes was 7-0 against Denver. Now he's 8-0 against Denver. There's literally nothing Denver can do to stop Patrick Mahomes. They've kind of just solidified the top spot in that division. So here's a fun stat that I think played a huge role in this game. The Broncos are 2-23 since 2019 when trailing after 3 quarters.
Wow.
So they just can't come from behind, and we know this because of Teddy, right? Like there's this type of quarterback that we just know that are not capable of coming from behind, and Teddy is like the CEO of that category, right? And there's clearly reasons why they're not going to win many games if they keep relying on Teddy. They're forced to take leads, and they're forced to rely on their defense, and that's just something you can't do when you're playing against Patrick Mahomes. You have to be able to keep up throwing the ball, and that's a really good reason why Patrick Mahomes is 8-0 against the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to the Kansas City defense. They've kind of been a question mark all throughout the year up until like the last 2-3 weeks.
Last 4 weeks now, including the bye week, and they're playing pretty great as far as defense goes.
Stepping up, not allowing the Broncos to get into the end zone when it really matters, because they did score. Javonte Williams did score.
Quarter,
yeah,
right?
In the fourth quarter. But up until then, I mean, it was already like 2 touchdown games. So throughout the whole game, not allowing them to score, letting them have a rhythm in the offense, and kind of just made this a lot more difficult for the Broncos to even have a chance to win this game. So yeah, Kansas City finding ways to win, even though their offense is not what we're used to seeing.
What's crazy is they did it again. They gave up the ball near the 20-yard line again. Tyreek Hill dropped a catch slant, right? That was going to set him up for another touchdown, and that's why they lost all four of those games, was because of offensive turnovers. I've mentioned it like 300 times on this podcast that they never had a problem moving the ball. They have literally never had a problem moving the ball, besides like one game when Mahomes threw for like 100 and something yards. Outside of that one game, they have not had any issues moving the ball on any team. And it's always just Tyreek Hill. I'm pretty sure Tyreek Hill is responsible for like 6 of those picks, just single-handedly, And that happened again. They were up 10-3 early in the game. They could have been up 17-3, taken a it's so much easier to play defense when you're up 17-3 versus 10-3, and Tyreek Hill just screwed that over again. So they're kind of doing it again, and they can't continue to do this because, yes, you have the Denver Broncos number, and it's easy for you to overcome little problems like this. But what if this was against, the Buccaneers, or what if this was against the Bills? Like, then you're screwed. So you really got to stop messing around with the Chiefs. If you really want to be a contender, you got to start removing these turnovers from your skill set.
Yeah, Hill's got 6 drops this year, and then Kelsey's at 5.
Yeah.
Which is like the highest is 7. So, I mean, he's pretty up there as far as drops go.
Yeah. I mean, Mahomes 15-29, 184, 1 interception, no touchdowns. I don't remember the last time I've seen Mahomes with no touchdown passes. He did run one in, but Patrick
Mahomes hasn't thrown a touchdown in like 3 of his last 5 games, I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Like,
Yeah.
Since the Raiders game?
At least 3 of his last 6 games. I'm pretty sure he had 0 touchdowns in like 2 other games in this. It's just a whole different offense. I don't know. I really don't know how to figure out this no touchdown business from.
Yeah, he's had no touchdowns the last 2 games. He had no touchdowns like 6 weeks ago as well one time. But it doesn't make sense. I mean, Denver's defense is good. Patrick Surtain II had the interception, and we know he's the real deal. So shout out to him. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, if they can move the ball so well, I just don't understand why they're not capitalizing when they have so many weapons in the red zone. You have Kelsey, you have Hill, you can use Mahomes' legs even in the red zone. I mean, he's a very underrated runner. So, I mean, they still find a way to get the job done. The biggest fear with the Chiefs is when they are clicking on all cylinders, how scary can they look? Because we've seen that the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, but this season we've seen it once.
This season it's been very seldom. So is this the team that we're going to see into the playoffs, or at any point is that that script going to flip or that switch going to flip? Because sitting at 8-4 with one of the weirdest offensive seasons we've seen from the Chiefs since this current construct of a team has been put together, that's really scary. Because the minute that they can revert back to that, if it happens, I mean, holy shit, watch out. So
remember what we said last time? Like, the Chiefs are 8-4.
Yep.
And we're like, this is the worst they've ever played. And then we look at the Rams, and we look at the Packers, and we're like, this is like the best they've ever played. And they have the same record.
Yeah, Rams are 8-4.
Right.
It's like the best they've looked.
So you're right. Anytime, if they can just remove these turnovers, that's really all it is. It's just these crucial turnovers. And they're not turnovers in the middle of the field. They're turnovers in red zones. They're turnover inside the 30-yard line, which are field goal points, which are touchdown points. So, yeah, if they don't do that, they're probably, like, if there's one team I do not want to play ever, it's the Chiefs when they're the Chiefs.
Yeah. I never want to play Patrick Mahomes. Always giving you a chance to win. I mean, they play the Raiders next week. They're fake news. But the Raiders have actually beat Mahomes and the Chiefs before since Mahomes has been a Chief. So that should still be an exciting game. The Broncos get to take on the Lions, who will have a ton of momentum after their win streak is currently at 1 game. The Monday night game was a doozy. I mean, that weather was crazy in Buffalo. The Patriots traveled to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Patriots came in at 8-4. Buffalo was 7-4. So this was a battle for first place in their division. And if I told you before the game that Mac Jones would have three pass attempts for 19 yards, not be injured, not get benched, play the whole game, and the Patriots would win that game, would you guys call me crazy?
Yeah.
I would bet you my whole house.
That could not happen.
All my assets, that wouldn't happen. But
including your ass? All your ass and your assets?
Yeah. Exactly, because that's the most.
That's the biggest asset.
That's the biggest asset.
You would be homeless and assless right now.
I know.
Oh, my
God. Glad I didn't take that bet.
But they did. The Patriots threw the ball 3 times for 19 yards. Mac Daddy Jones, who's having the best rookie quarterback season of any quarterback in this class. The Patriots still win the game 14-10 final in Buffalo. It was windy. It was snowy. They ran the ball 46 times. And the Buffalo Bills could not stop them. I mean, the Buffalo Bills could not score on offense against this defense, and they could not stop
the Bills suck.
I mean, okay, so to be fair, it's not that the Bills could not stop them. The Patriots had their 1 touchdown on a 64-yard run by Damian Harris, right? Yeah. Every other, like the rest of the game, I think they did pretty well. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson only averaged 3.3 yards a carry. Right. But it seemed like down the stretch when they needed to get stops to get the ball back, they couldn't do it. They were getting timely first downs. And then, again, Josh Allen, 15-30? You're supposed to be a possible MVP caliber quarterback. You're like the next big thing, and you're completing 50% of your passes. I don't care that it was a super windy, right? Like, I know that that's going to play a factor. Yeah. But Mac Jones was 66% completions. Why were you only 50?
So I remember mentioning last week that the Bills are alternating in scoring points. They score 30 points, and they score less than 16. They score more than 30, then they score less than 16. That that pattern continued this game again. So there is a clear pattern here. Either they get really hyped up after they win and they don't prepare enough, or they lose and then they prepare so much that they score over 30. So that's the trend here. Do you mind jumping a little bit earlier and seeing who they play next week?
Yeah, who the Bills?
Yeah.
They're at the Bucs.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Big
wow.
game. Big game.
All right.
Big game. That's a prove it game for both teams.
Yeah.
Maybe more the Bills.
Yeah, no. So the winds were up to 50 to 55 miles per hour.
They're closer to the 30 side, but yeah.
I mean,
At one point,
At one
maybe,
point.
but consistently, definitely, yeah.
Those are called wind gusts. Like those are just the random gusts.
So 30. That's
that's still a
very
lot.
windy, right?
Yeah, that's so
when I
loud.
was in 5th grade, this kid came up to me and he was like,
Core memory.
Yeah, if a team just runs 3 yards every play,
Yeah, you score a touchdown.
then
They
you'll
win.
score a touchdown.
They win.
You can win.
Yeah.
You get 12 yards and 4 downs.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
That's dumb. And now Bill Belichick does that exact same thing. And I think it was genius, really. Like the wins are that heavy.
You know who that kid grew up to be?
Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick.
That kid grew up to be Ramondre Stevenson. Could you imagine? Oh, my God.
His ethnicity wasn't the same as Ramondre Stevenson.
I mean, Michael Jackson. I mean, you
Yeah.
can switch it up. So
Who's the offensive coordinator? It's probably that guy.
Yeah.
No, but it's just smart play, smart on the offense side, and then that last play where Josh Allen has a chance to score a touchdown, and it's a post route,
Yep.
and the cornerback goes away from who he's covering to come back and swat the ball.
Yeah.
Like these are the coaching things and like Bill Belichick stuff that they do and that they teach their players that shows on the field and allows them to win games. So solid Bill Belichick performance. The Buffalo Bills should change their name to Buffalo Bill Belichick's.
Damn, the Buffalo Bills, as in Bills Belichick.
Yes.
Shout out to the Patriots. We talked about the Cardinals who are 7-0 on the road. Patriots are now 6-0 on the road.
Wow.
Very
Patriots
nice.
Cardinals setting up for a Super Bowl here.
Oh, I just want the Patriots to just collapse. I'm
It's
tired of
scary
this,
to
man.
know that they could have another decade or 2 decades of dominance, and Tom Brady's literally
as
not
long
even
as
on the
Bill
team.
Belichick doesn't have a heart attack, they're gonna be up there every single day, every single year.
I don't know about you guys, but I want to see the Patriots and Bucks.
Yeah,
I
the
think
Super
that'd be
Bowl.
insane. That'd be an insane Super Bowl to get to watch.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with the Patriots being good, and Bucks be good too, and then Patriots win the Super Bowl and beat Tom
Patriots,
Brady.
do you hear yourself?
Yeah.
As a fan
after-
of a different team, how could you possibly want another Patriots Super Bowl?
I just want that story.
You like the
I just
story.
want
You're a
Tom,
story guy.
I'm okay with
story before Pittsburgh Steelers.
No, look. Okay, obviously you want the Steelers to win the Super
Your
Bowl.
pulse isn't over. All I'm saying is the pulse is still there.
The pulse is still there.
You gotta
100%.
do CPR until they come back to life.
Who has a bigger who has a more likely pulse for a possible Super Bowl right now, the Steelers or the Vikings?
Oh, the Steelers.
I think it's.
It-
Oh man,
It's the Steelers.
I think because of the win-loss record in the NFC and how everything's like 5 and 6 people, it might be the Vikings because you guys have to fucking go through a lot harder
We have
scenario.
to win out our division to potentially win
But
it.
just predicting wins
yeah.
for the rest of the season, fucking Steelers.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
predicting personnel and knowing that we have Mike Zimmer and you have Mike Tomlin. Give me Mike Tomlin and his
Right.
experience
Yeah.
all day long.
It's crazy. We used to have Mike Tomlin. It's like watching your ex just grow up and have raise a family, and
Yeah.
her children are
And they're
already
successful.
doctors.
Your ex is a doctor. Your
Uh,
ex has got her PhD.
And then you have like ALS, and you're forced to sit on the chair and watch Mike Zimmer for the rest of your life.
Oh my God, that's morbid as hell.
But it's so true.
It's
That's
very
exactly how I feel.
Oh, it's very
That's
true.
exactly how I feel.
It's really great on my end. I mean, Mike Tomlin has just been one of the
You've got to
one of
witness
the
what,
best.
2 Super Bowls?
Yep,
in your
2.
lifetime? Yeah.
One with Bill Cowher, one with Mike Tomlin. I mean,
I'm just gonna name my next kid Bill. I feel like there's something. We're onto something here.
But yeah, the Patriots take care of business 14-10. They're now 9-4 leading that division. The Bills dropped to 7-5. All of a sudden they have 5 losses. They're 3-3 at home. Bills Mafia, where are you at? Home teams. Buffalo Bills are supposed to be like that home team that you don't want to travel to.
I think they got scared of the wind.
Yeah. I mean, what's funny is on in the box score, the Patriots got scared of the wind. That's why they ran so much, but they don't care to admit that they were scared of the wind. They're like, you know what? We're manly enough to admit that the wind is a factor, so we're just going to run it.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, no, we got Josh Allen. We're still going to throw the ball 30 times, and he's only going to complete it 15 times. And the situation of the wind and all of the weather favored the Patriots because the Buffalo Bills don't run the ball. They hate running the ball.
Mm-hmm.
They would do anything besides run the ball, right? So even when they tried to run the ball, they suck, and they that they're a pass first team. So
Yeah, and also I think Jonathan Taylor has opened up a whole world of blueprint to beat the Bills.
Yep.
They can't stop the run. Like, if you look at the last few games since the Jonathan Taylor day, the people are just running all over the Bills. And there was an interview after the game. Micah Hyde and some other dude got Poyer.
Jordan Poyer. Yeah, I remember that.
They interviewed him, and the interviewer, I had to like rewind it 30 times because I couldn't hear the interviewer. But what he asked was like, "You guys got embarrassed. Stop. You guys couldn't stop the run.
Yeah.
You guys got embarrassed. What do you have to say about that?"
Yeah.
And they got offended.
They got
did.
so butthurt.
I'm like, are you seriously butthurt right now? You got exposed.
Yeah.
You got ran all over, and you're saying that's not a valid question?
They had asked, it was like the first time since a long time ago that happened. And then I think he also said something about like knowing that the team was going to run and you still weren't able to do that. Are you embarrassed by that?
Yes.
And Jordan Poyer was like, what kind of question is that? I'm like, that's a very
I'm gonna
valid.
remember that.
And the reporter fired back. He's like, it's a legitimate question. Like national spotlights are going to be talking about this. This is going to be on the news. Like, what do you guys have to say for yourself?
Yeah.
And then Micah Hyde just started. She's like, outside of the one run, like we did really good. Like at that point, dude, it just becomes excuses.
Yeah, that was excuses. It was not just one run.
Yeah,
it was
own up to
not
it.
just one
Own
run.
up to the fact that you knew they were going to run the ball. They ran the ball 46 times, and you still let them average almost 5 yards a carry.
Yeah. And one last thing about that run. The 64-yard run by Damian Harris in the first quarter was the longest rushing touchdown by a New England player since 1997. So as much as the Patriots like to run, they don't really get very far running the ball. They just like pound and grind.
They've never had like the home run guys either. Like
it was Curtis
LeGarrette
Martin that
Blount
did that
and shit.
in
Like,
1997.
Yeah.
And since then, they've had
like
nothing.
Corey Dillon, like
Rex
LeGarrette
Burkhead.
Blount, like a bunch of, guys that never are going to bust big runs. But nonetheless, Damian Harris, welcome to the show. He did get hurt, so.
Yeah.
But it's nice. They have a luxury of two guys that I would never.
Bolden and Ramondre.
I would literally feel comfortable throwing any of those guys out there.
Totally. It's like the Madison thing. Like
Cook's
gone, but like, dude, a little part of me dies every time I even mention the Vikings.
There's so much. I'm like, if you guys watch Harry Potter, they talk about how like Voldemort splits his soul into like 8 pieces, and you have to kill Lord Voldemort. There you go. Holy shit. Splits his soul into 7 or 8 pieces, right? And that's literally how it feels being a Vikings fan. I feel like all how many ever times my soul's been split into how many ever pieces. Each time I see that, it's just a part of it gets stabbed and dies.
Damn.
Yeah. And at some point, enough Horcruxes are going to get destroyed that I'm going to watch a Vikings game and my body's just going to wither away because that's it. That was the final one that needed to die.
Wow.
I hope we get a Super Bowl before that happens.
I hope it's like, you're like 99 years old, you're in deathbed. We're Super Bowl. It's like February 12th.
Honestly, like I mentioned this while we were in New York last week, but like I wouldn't change anything. I really wouldn't.
No.
Like I am who I am because of these Vikings.
Yeah.
Like
because of our ability to handle this emotional instability from our favorite football team, it's turned us into stronger human beings.
Right. So like I can't say a lot of stuff I want to say because I don't know who's listening. But yeah, emotional intelligence has just because of the Vikings. Like this is the most important thing in my life, right? Like family, friends, food, football, right? It's right there. When one of your favorite things in life just hurts you. Every 4 months, 1 week, 1 day out of the week, sometimes 2 days out of the week when you play on Thursday. But when they torture you to such an extent, like you are unstoppable.
Right.
Yeah.
You are unstoppable.
You've built this like just cocoon of no one can
pain.
Pain.
you instead of other people inflicting pain on you, you take that pain and you build a house around it using the pain.
That's amazing.
You think like all this ancillary BS, like, you think me being in debt, you think me not being able to afford that, you think like my wife leaving me is sad. No, I've pretty much been tolerating the Minnesota Vikings for 30 years. Yeah. There's nothing
I feel
that
like
emotionally can get
we need a documentary of like all Minnesota Vikings people and just
I feel like people have been thinking, like you just talked about the Good Morning Football people like saying sorry to Vikings fans. Yeah. I feel like people that are around Vikings fans or don't follow the Vikings closely think we're like we're doing this on purpose or like we're exaggerating how shitty we have it. Yeah. But I hope you, in the first season we've done this, being around us so vividly, can experience secondhand, firsthand, however you want to call it, that this is a real thing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's probably top 5 worst. This season's probably top 5 worst.
Yeah, this has
been because of the potential, and then All losses are by one score.
Yep.
This is definitely top 5.
We've literally been winning by 7+ points in every game, yet we have 7 losses and only 5 wins. The story goes on and on. We totally deviated from that. The Patriots take care of business. They are heading into a bye. The Bills have the Bucs next week. That's the recap. I know we could talk about Vikings Lions for hours and hours, and I'm sure next week's episode, after the conclusion of the Vikings Steelers game, that segment's going to be long as shit. So can't wait for that. Let's jump into studs and duds. I will kick us off this week. My stud, the one silver lining to the Minnesota Vikings, is Justin Jefferson. 30.1 fantasy points as a receiver, 11 catches, 182 yards, and a touchdown. The dude just cannot be stopped. No Adam Thielen, so are they going to double team him, triple team him? Doesn't matter. He is going to get his. He is my stud. My dud is another receiver who I have a lot of promise and faith in as a young receiver. Rashad Bateman saw 42% of snaps, only 1 target, 0 catches, 0 fantasy points. You were losing the game. You know, it wasn't like the game was blowing out. It wasn't like there was no reason for the ball to not go to you, but the Ravens just did not give the ball to Rashad Bateman, and they lost the game. So, therefore, Rashad Bateman, you are my dud. Shisho, what do you got?
Yeah, real quick on the Bateman thing. He's actually on a downward trend as far as the last 3 or 4 weeks goes. It's just getting less and less points, or he's getting less and less targets. It might be a conversation to whether even roster him at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
If you can get your handcuffs for your players who are about to be in the playoffs, I might just pick up Khalil Herbert and drop Bateman.
Yeah.
You know?
If you know you're never going to start Rashad Bateman at this point because you're in the playoffs or you're heading into the playoffs, the chances of losing your top star running back and having his backup is more valuable than 7 to 11 points from Rashad Bateman.
Exactly.
I mean, Bateman is the guy that is fourth on the list of snaps, routes run, and targets. Right? He's Marcus Brown is above him. Duvernay was even above him last week, and Sammy Watkins. So he's just not seeing
Watkins sucks.
Sammy Watkins sucks. Duvernay sucks. I still fully believe that long-term Bateman is going to be the guy, but I want to revert back to the thing that we've been utilizing for why guys are playing in this way, and maybe he just hasn't learned the playbook completely yet.
Possibly. But yeah, there's no question that he's going to be a
He's the most talented receiver on that receiving core, in my opinion. Hollywood Brown has a ton of upside, but the dude can't stop dropping passes. Right. And you also didn't mention Mark Andrews even, right? So that's another guy that's taking targets away. So, nonetheless, he's my dud. I know to no fault of his own maybe, but 0 points, goose eggs, tough.
That's Dudley worthy. Okay, my stud will be T. Higgins, 9 catches for 14 targets. And a touchdown. He's got over 20 points in back-to-back games. I think teams are figuring out how to stop Chase, and that's just stopping over-the-top throws. If you look at all of Chase's highlights, they're all over-the-top throws that turned into touchdowns. So teams have stopped that, and that's clearly translated into Chase getting single-digit points or no touchdowns. And where do you go from there? You go back to what created this offense in the first place, and that was T. Higgins, right? T. Higgins can do everything Chase can do. T. Higgins can do everything Boyd can do. T. Higgins should be the number one option, and I'm glad they're seeing this. And he displayed his talent last game, and I think doing all of that, using all these numbers, T. Higgins is the stud for the week. Dud, Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, if I could pick 2 duds, I would pick Tyreek Hill and his counterpart on that offense, Travis Kelce. They both ended up with 3.2 to 4 points. Just not acceptable from a fantasy owner perspective that drafted both of them extremely high because of the sheer amount of volume. There was no volume. They spread the ball completely. They ran the ball a lot. They utilized their defense to score points. Congratulations to the Chiefs, but Tyreek Hill gets the dud of the day for me because of the really, really ruining the expectations.
Yeah, I mean, you drop a pass which causes an interception. So very Dudley.
That should always be a Dudley, no matter how many points you put up.
Especially when you're doing it as consistently as Tyreek Hill seems to be doing it.
Yeah. So my stud is going to be Javonte Williams. So had a very solid day, 26.8 points and half-point PPR, 102 yards. He also did it in the receiving, in receptions as well, 6 receptions on 9 targets, 76 yards, 1 touchdown. Looking a lot better than Melvin Gordon. And they play the Lions next week.
So even if Melvin Gordon's back, you almost could arguably start both guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've been doing all year, right?
Yeah.
We've never been this guy shouldn't start, this guy should start. We've just been unloading both of them. And Javonte Williams leads the league in a really fun stat.
Breaking tackles?
It's not just breaking tackles, it's it's forced to break broken tackles.
Okay.
So it's not just that the defender's slipping off, right? He's causing them to fall off, and he's got a 33% rate, which is higher than anybody else in the league
Did
right
you
now.
say 36.8?
33%.
So 1 out of every 3 runs.
That he forces people
a guy
to get off of
Yeah,
him.
get off of him.
Jeez.
So that broken tackle. What did I even say?
Forced broken tackle.
Forced broken tackle, along with the yards after contact.
Mm-hmm.
Just do the math. Those 2 things, if you're at the peak in your position, doing both those things, that's like almost 8 to 10 yards a carry. So, so
that's a solid,
definitely
solid
a stud,
number.
super stud.
Who is not a super stud, used to be super stud, now a dud, is Ezekiel Elliott. 13 carries, 45 yards, no touchdowns, and recorded 5.7 PPR points. Half-point PPR points. So another guy, Tony Pollard, looks like he's kind of solidifying chances to have the number 1 running back role, and Zeke is just kind of going on a downtrend. Maybe injuries, maybe he's lost a step, but just not producing like we're used to seeing from Zeke in the last year or 2.
There's definitely injuries. There's definitely a knee injury that he's like fighting through, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to lose the job, so he's like playing through it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's clear. It's clear cut. Tony Pollard is probably better than like 30 other teams' running backs right now at this point.
Yeah.
If you just like give him 30 carries versus giving Zeke 20 carries and giving Tony Pollard 10 carries. Like, I don't know why the Cowboys are doing that. It's probably an emotional attachment to Zeke, and they're going to have to get over that because Pollard is the key to scoring more points. It's not Zeke.
Yeah, I agree. Even if they just start splitting straight down or slowly building Pollard back up, right? I think that transition needs to show when it's evident on film that Pollard is explosive, Pollard is dynamic, and Zeke clearly looks like he's lost a step. And whether it's injuries or just naturally losing a step because the shelf life of running backs is very low in the NFL. Those are our studs and duds. Let's end the episode. Shovit, give us the waiver pickups for the week heading into the last week in most fantasy football matchups heading into playoffs. So big waiver week.
Yeah, big waiver week. Week 14 is coming up. Last week, man, that's exciting. Can't believe we're already here.
I know.
So for receivers, I've got Van Jefferson. We talked about how OBJ came in, but since Woods has been gone, Van Jefferson's getting the targets, getting the route runs. So it could be a solid flex play for you here. Next up, we've got Russell Gage. The outside of Cordell Patterson, and Pitts, Russell Gage seems to be getting the most targets as far as receiving goes. That's a good start for a receiver. And then last but not least, we've got on the receiving side, we've got KJ Osborne, given that AJ Thielen is out.
Adam Thielen.
AJ Thielen. Did I see AJ?
You said KJ and then you probably yeah.
That's what happened. Adam Thielen out due to high ankle sprain, so KJ Osborne should be a solid wide receiver 2 on the Minnesota Vikings. And the Steelers allowed the 10th most fantasy points to receivers this year, so could be a good play for you there. Next, we're going to do tight ends. So the tight end that we have here, I just have one, Ricky Seals-Jones. Logan Thomas got hurt. It's not an ACL, PCL, but looks like he may not play next week. So Ricky Seals-Jones is going to be a good pickup. Next, we're going to go on to running backs. First one I've got on board is Kenneth Gainwell with Miles Sanders hurt. And Boston Scott, not sure where he's at either.
I think there's a higher chance Jordan Howard becomes the lead back again after Miles Sanders getting hurt. Kenneth Gainwell, I feel like, is in PPR leagues could benefit in like garbage time, but he's definitely the same role as the guy for Derrick Henry, the backup, Nichols.
Yeah,
like they're these role guys. They're never gonna get 20 carries. It's just not going to happen with Kenneth Gainwell. But in a PPR league, if they're especially playing against a tough matchup, you saw what he can do at the end of that game. So
that's a good point. Well, Jordan Howard, when he did come in, looked pretty good when both Sanders and Scott were out, or Sanders and Gainwell were out. Yeah. So Jordan Howard as well, outside of Kenneth Gainwell. Another guy is Sony Michel. So with Darrell Henderson Jr.'s injury, Sony Michel, as we talked about last week, Shishov mentioned him, is going to be the guy that you want to go out and
at least for this week. It's worth it. It's seeing how many points he produced, and you're playing for the Rams. It's it's totally worth using that waiver for this 1 week if you're already in the playoffs.
Yep. Solid. And then we have Chase Edmonds, who may not be eligible, may not be available, but he is eligible to come back in IR. If someone dropped him in your league, he go out and grab him, and he should start producing like he did if he's starting. Next up, Rashard Penny versus the Seahawks. Out of Alex Collins and all the other
everybody's hurt.
Okay.
Everybody, all those little weird names, DJ Dallas, Homers, everybody has some sort of injury designation.
Yep.
The only one that doesn't is Penny, which is funny because Penny is the one of the most injured running backs in the NFL. So he's the only one that's actually healthy right now. So we'll see what he can do with that.
Yeah, take
Probably
it for what
not
it is. It's the Seahawks running back situation, but Rashard Penny should, if everyone else is hurt, RB1. And do what you want with that. Last but not least, as far as running backs go, we have Ramondre Stevenson. If Damian Harris is out, this guy is going to produce number one running back. They love to run the ball, so go out and grab him and monitor Damian Harris's injury. And the last guy, quarterback position, is Taysom Hill. Although he may not be able to do it with his hands, he will do it with his legs.
Yeah, you'll get like a solid 16 points, just from a touchdown and 100 yards.
Yeah.
So.
And then maybe some throws here and
then
there.
like 200 yards and 2 picks.
Yeah.
You're looking at like 23 fantasy points right there.
I'll take it.
Right?
Yeah.
Very solid. The fact that he can do it with his legs, the fact that he likes to keep the ball in the red zone with these read options. Again, his floor and ceiling are very, very fantasy caliber. Yeah. So definitely like that. That wraps it up, guys. That is episode number 26, week 13 review. We have week 14 on deck here literally in 2 days. It's the game that you guys are going to be at, the Thursday Night Football Vikings Steelers. So we do anticipate putting out a preview episode hopefully in the next couple of days as well. Stick around for that. Again, thank you guys so much for sticking into this episode of The Only Playbook. Again, I'm Sweetcar, I guess Shishot and Shovit. We will see you guys on Thursday.
We'll
see you guys on Thursday.
Yeah.